Okay, we in here. Should have used the bathroom before. I'm loving this. What is it called? Screencast thing. This is cool. So dope. Anywho, let me jump right into this. Yeah. Let me look at the camera. This is so interesting. Okay, that's probably better if I'm able to look at it like this. As I look at where my thing is. Greetings, peace, greetings to all. Probably let the windows up because I don't want no mosquitoes in here. I love listening to classical music, so if y'all hear that. Yo, greetings. I don't give a fuck if you call this a rant or whatever it is. I'm going in. It's just a deep acceptance. I'm gonna let the windows down, bro. Okay. What y'all see here, I love the screencast thing because I can like click on this and yeah. It ain't pretty much. I love this because it's really not much to hide, but this is dope. Anywho, let me jump right into this. This is big. Greetings to all, peace to all, greetings. I guess it's kind of like a little. Let's give an honest source. It's been a while since I kind of like been trying to do these videos. Let's give an honest source to the Creator, the Most High, making all this possible. Boom, 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 boom. Pow, 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 pow. Prioritize your well-being and your health. Ha, 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 ha. Anywho, I was gonna get into this right now, but I'm gonna make another video on that. But it's funny, but this topic plays into. Matter of fact, let me go here. I saw this on IG. It says millennials are on pace to become the richest generation in history. Okay. I feel like right now we're getting back because I never paid attention to the Gen X, the Millennium, this and that. But I've done a video talking about how the biggest wealth transfer is happening right now, spiritually and emotionally, mentally and physically. So when I saw this, it's bigger than the money. I'm just gonna read little things here. It says, millenniums are on track to inherit 84 trillion over the next 20 years from the baby boomers in the silent generation, making them likely to become the wealthiest generation in history. The massive great wealth transfer includes stocks, bonds, real estate, and small businesses. This is interesting. Key points. Baby boomers and their elders hold 64% of the nation's 190 trillion in wealth. I know a lot of us, I saw comments, they like, where? How? Where the fuck is this at? Anywho, boomers own 37% of U.S. homes, plus the majority of vacations and rentals and properties. Millenniums, 45% of whom still don't own homes. So you're not the only one. Shit, I'm still 35, learning life, and even trying to decide, which I pretty much just got confirmation of, like, I'm going to dive more into it, like, how I really been feeling in my awareness around my transition of what it is I'm here to do and how it is I'm even ushering in my life, as well as my kids and so forth, and people that probably need this message so they can relate. That light ain't do much of justice, but anyway. So what else? Many boomers are also own private businesses worth nearly 8 trillion. Who the fuck are these boomers? And are selling them to younger generations. Do you know what? That's interesting. Some wealth is already being passed on through tax-free annual gifts and financial help with big expenses. You know what? I'm receiving this. This is gratitude. The bottom line, millennials are set to gain enormous financial power as their parents and grandparents pass on wealth, reshaping the economy, housing market, and investment landscape in the process. I was just telling an elder who was 50, and I'm expressing to her, like, I was expressing to her, like, a lot of, I'm assuming that, you know what, I'm not even going to play on this. Baby boomers and boomers. Okay, let's see what age group is at. Baby boomers. Age. Baby boomer ages. Okay, so I want y'all to see this right here. I know I can draw on here. I want y'all to pay attention to this. Baby boomers. Oh, how do I go back on that? It's something. It's something where I can erase. Okay, how about we do this? How do I? Okay, there we go. I'm still learning this, y'all. Baby boom. Okay, we see this right here. Yeah, I'm just highlighting it. Anywho, baby boomers are generally defined as those born from 1946 to 1964. This is very interesting because I'm having a lot, or I've had a lot of discussions, deep discussions with a lot of, as I told y'all before, this deep. Oh, I'm glad that light came on. This deep, like friction with a lot of people around those ages, because it's like the acceptance I've said before years ago, or not years ago, but in this video where I was talking about people around this age are like I've had to learn to have grace with, because they are experiencing almost like a psychosis in believing that their world has not ended, or the world that they grew up in, the reality is no more. And through that transition, this age right here, when you say this period following World War II, significant increase in birth rates, it's almost like a lot of and look, 61 through 79, there's a lot of them transitioning right now. And with that, it's not just a physical transfer that you hear me like that is being discussed when I go back here to this right here about, okay, so what am I on? These are, I can resize this. I love this. This is so cool to me. Okay, let's see. Put it right here. 61 and 79. That's interesting because my grandmother would be in the baby boomers. My grandma and a lot of elders that I know, and so forth. So anywho, a lot of them would be in that area of that. So again, I'm seeing the spiritual world like ancestrally. So a lot of you that aren't familiar with spirituality, I am also recognizing the fact of how through this resistance almost, I had to remind someone a minute ago, like the resistance of what you see physically playing out is also a resistance of ancestors prior to our incarnation, if that makes sense. A lot of us presently, like I'm 35, so I will be a part of the Millennium. And so the resistance of me prioritizing my well-being, when I'm going to get into, and a lot of things where do I even feel like I want to be a homeowner, or do I want to be a property owner? You know, a lot of things where I like to travel, I like to do things differently. But again, I'm going to get into that. So again, a lot of things I'm recognizing with like my grandmother and them, and a lot of these people that are around these ages, these are people who had a lot of when it talks about here, like a lot of these World War II, or you know, a lot of things where you see a kind of a similar energy now playing out. A lot of that was preparing. When we're talking about a generational wealth transfer, I see it spiritually and I also see it physically. So what I'm getting at is this. It's like, okay, if the baby boomers, it says here, hold, baby boomers and their elders hold, and their elders, meaning that my great grandma and them hold 64% of the nation's $100 trillion in wealth. You know, I'm thinking to myself, like, what else do that really consist of? Because whatever you see play out physically, a lot of us who are in tune know that first happens spiritually. So this is why I feel like a lot of the healing and a lot of the self-awareness that we're going through, a lot of us that are millenniums and who are faced with unresolved traumas, unresolved emotions from these baby boomers, from that generation of 1946 to 1964, where a lot of them went through a lot of things to where the displacement of fathers, wars, A lot of them going through, a lot of those mothers going through a lot of things, dealing with having to pick up and carry a lot of loads by themselves. So a lot of us now, men and women, that a lot of millennials who had like a greater responsibility in certain demographics are now realizing the importance of this right here. And I just Google this, like I said, whatever resonate, take what will. Other than that, yeah. I feel like I'm gonna pull up to get a little closer, because I feel like this video is cutting out. But I'm gonna do. Someone can feel the type of way they want to. Other than that, I really don't care. I want this connection to be the best that it can be. Okay, I got in there really good. My connection should be much better now. So yeah, so the video was lagging. There's nothing I really can do about it. Other than that, okay, you see here now. Okay, millenniums are 1981, 1996. Now, my partner and I, and a lot of people I'm familiar with, we grew up in this era right here. 1989, me, and then someone I know, 1994, so forth. So notice what it prioritizes right here. It's a key characteristic. This shit is so aligned, where definitely resonates with me. Millennials are the first generation to grow up with widespread access to the internet, smartphones, and social media. Listen, when I say a lot of the ones I just told you, like the baby boomers and stuff, they did not know nothing like about. I remember the first time my grandma got on Facebook or tried to get on what do they call it, FaceTime and shit. This lady was like this, hey, can you hear me? Hey, you know, I know a lot of y'all can relate to that. Like grandma getting an iPhone or something for the first time. Y'all gotta realize, like, that's the shift that is happening. That's the thing that, when it seems like, even though they may have had things financially and seem like they were well off in certain ways, a lot of those baby boomers or those generations did not prioritize this. Let me go into this right here. They did not prioritize this right here. Why is it not marking? There we go. They didn't prioritize this. A lot of them didn't have the opportunity to do this. Now, I didn't say they didn't travel, because a lot of us, some of the millennials I know were what do they call them? Military brats, or you know, that's just a term, or military baby, whatever you want to call it, to where they traveled around a lot. They did not prioritize these things right here. They didn't have the opportunity. They traveled, but it was at the expense of someone else's career or whatever. So this was so significant about this right here, what you're seeing happening now. Digital natives. You know, I remember coming from the flip phone all the way to now where you can touch all that other shit. And I'm like, you know, that's evolution, people. I remember as a little boy having paper food stamps going to the store, to now it's digital food stamps. So let me see what this light did. Anywho, y'all can see me if I have to cut it on to a. So yeah. Other than that, adaptable and tech savvy. Absolutely. You know, some of us had to, you know, let's say one of my experiences was, what did they call it? Matter of fact, I was learning the computer thing, and I want to say, I don't even know when Microsoft was created, but I want to say it was during this time, or you know what? Let's look at it. Shit. Let's make this very amazing here. Okay. When was Microsoft invented? Oh, come on now. Did my connection go out? I gotta bear with me. I moved up and just think that my shit was my connection. I hope it's still screen recording. Okay. Okay, it was founded, but when was it invented? So I believe I'm connected right now. Let's trust it, hoping it was connected back to this shit. Okay, it was founded then? Okay, so okay, I'm assuming he a baby boomer or something. No, when was it founded? Or when was it created? Founded. Is that in the same thing? Okay, either way. So, anywho, I remember just learning computers and stuff when I was in, elementary or middle school, whatever. Anywho, that being said, where was I getting at? That being said, I remember just trying to, what do they call it? I had a position at what they call the unemployment office. And I remember having to help a lot of elders who did not know how to file their unemployment benefits or whatever. So again, these would be your baby boomers. So a lot of us, like right now, I'm recognizing as I was reading this transfer of wealth, I'm looking at it both spiritually and physically. Because again, right here, this is one of the biggest things right now that I've got a lot of backlash from. Is right here that I have to stand in and stay true to, is this entrepreneur spirit. They are most likely to start their own business and pursue their passion, sometimes at the expense of traditional career paths. Again, a traditional career path would be something like typically the societal norm of a darker man playing basketball. Yes, I had the opportunity to play overseas and so forth. At the same moment, that was not my purpose, because as I got more into do what I love to do, which is speaking, being a bridge from the younger generation to now, and them even having that it's almost not so much confusion but question, just like millennials are right now, who had to hear so much from the baby boomers, our elders and their elders about how we should live religiously, our values, all these other things, core values and so forth. When it's telling you right here, a part of this transfer in wealth, it's not just financially, people. This shit is spiritual. It's spiritual first. Because as we start to hold tight to that, we begin to rebuild a structure. As it says here, we begin to build, as we focus more on our well-being, because that's been my focus even with my writings, my books, and my artistry. Focus on the unresolved issues, unresolved traumas, unresolved things. As it says, focusing on our well-being. Millennials are known for prioritizing work-life balance and mental health, often challenging traditional workplace norms. Listen, my focus is to create a lifestyle around where I don't have the vacation from, or more so like to create a life around. I don't even like the word work because I used to hear it so much growing up. It's like I'm focused on creating a life where I can balance my mental health with what I'm doing around whatever it is I love to do, and also be able to live a stable life from that. Financially stable, and that could be, however that is, very abundantly, because I've seen people from what I grew up in and my demographics did not do a lot of fulfilling their purpose or their voice being heard when it comes to even me being a darker man and being with darker women, who, again, how that transfer of wealth would look different for me here, because some of us didn't come from, we did come from things, but the story being told differently. A lot of, whether people want to call it slavery or captivity or a lot of things that how it was explained, a lot of what this is my perspective. A lot of this shit that I see right here from baby boomers, when you're talking about wars and when you're talking about a lot of shit like this, I feel like what's missing is the fact of how people came into their wealth when it came into their land. That's another thing that spiritually, when you're talking about karma being collected, and then the transfer in wealth being also what has been reaped shall be sown, and then that very karma from how people were treated on their way up, through their self-hatred, their racism, through their self-righteousness and so forth, That's a part of what's being transferred and being transmuted as a lot of us as Millennium prioritize this shit right here. Bingo, this right here, focusing on our well-being. And what our elders did not do, or didn't have the opportunity, or they chose work more than they chose a work life more, prioritizing more their mental health. I like this one right here. Diverse and inclusive. They are more racially and ethically diverse than the previous generation, and values exclusivity and social responsibility. Oh my God, this right here. As much as people think that things are horrible, no, it's what's being portrayed on the media. Because in all honesty, I see so much of the diversity that's so beautiful. I see so many things that a lot of the baby boomers, a lot of those elders, a lot of them, it's like, I used to ask myself this. I used to tell myself, like, bro, how can my grandmother, this didn't really make sense to me. For a lot of people with you, like the whole traditional norm around religion in itself. And it didn't click on me, because I was like, it's to make people think. Like, you don't have to accept none of what I'm saying. It is what it is. It didn't make sense for me for, my grandmother, or I see people in darker demographics, to have an image of a man or, a particular patriarchal figure, have so much honor and support towards this externally, yet knowing what they went through from being racially profiled or devalued, dehumanized as women and men, and then still be in these positions to create this illusion, or even fucking like this narrative around honoring such a person, when I was like, internally, like, I used to ask myself, I don't know if this is my first time saying it on here, but I have it on another YouTube. My great grandfather I never met. My grandmother's father, my great grandfather, I believe, never met him, because he was unalived by people of a lighter shade, or some may use the term Caucasian or whatever, in the South. He was hit. And the thing about that, what I'm bringing emphasis to, is the fact of how I was like, how could my grandmother have this image of a man who looked like the men who unalived her father? And and I was like, what's with that? And you're telling me you don't have this internalized like hatred, which you mentioned, and this is not to devalue her or discredit her motherhood or who she is. It's just logically, and using independent and critical thinking, to be like, yo, you used to say you wasn't too fond of people that were lighter, simply because, and I get your vendetta or your anger, your rage towards people, not all people, but people in general like that, because of, a lot of these baby boomers, and a lot of these people who hold this so-called wealth, whatever, what else? The boomers who had 30, let me clear this out. The boomers who own 37% of U.S. home, plus the majority of vacation and rental properties. I mean, let's be fucking real here. We're talking about people who do not look like people that are darker, or darker shades, because when you look at the majority of what wealth symbolizes in the USA or America, we're talking about most, if not, I ain't gonna say all, but most of how they came into their so-called wealth financially, and how we discredit the fact of how people were unalived, or people were ripped from their lands and homes through the hatred. And when I say there's a spiritual transfer, y'all, I get it. There's something where the rage that is, when we're talking about the focus being our well-being here, that's a part of our prioritizing our mental health, because that shit has to come out now. That's the shit that I talk about on my YouTube and so forth, where I used to ask myself, like, how can my grandmother sit here and have this image, but knowing internally you don't even like people like that are of a lighter shade? That's the things that I just didn't get. That's the thing that I was really like, what the fuck? Like, what? And you told us out of your mouth, or told me when I was younger, that you didn't like people. I'm gonna use the term white, even though that's like a an adjective. But again, for people who don't know, in that climate, when you're talking about around these 1946 and 1964, where these people were born, bro, they went through a lot of hardship when it came to just being a darker person. Yes, and as things evolve, racism evolved. It was just more internalized. So you're talking about a lot of passive aggressiveness and how people came into their fucking wealth by being passive aggressive on the issues that were repressed in the tissues of majority of a lot of darker people in certain demographics, where certain reservations or certain things were built over. Where a lot of those people, those baby boomers, did not have the opportunity, or some of them that became homeowners, and then you have gentrification and a lot of this stuff that, again, a lot of this stuff right here that you're seeing is very vital right here, because the focus on the well-being, it was another one here. Experience oriented. Many millennials prioritize experience and travel over traditional milestones like marriage and home ownership due to financial constraints. And the funny thing is with the financial constraints is, when you're thinking about the banks, when you're thinking about loans, and you're talking about people that are darker, listen, this is not complaining. This is just real experience and shit. When you're talking about people who have had come into their properties, come into their land, or however they came into it. And when you talk about sundown towns, when you're talking about the energy and the shit that why people only want to support people that don't look like them. So when we're talking about financial constraints, that right there plays a major part on how certain people do progress. Certain people, when you talk about class, or when you're talking about certain demographics, okay, there is systems or things that have been in place that are now crumbling due to the energy and the seeds that they've sown to keep certain people out, or to keep certain people from progressing. So now that shit has backfired. So a lot of these millennials, such as myself right now, are prioritizing experience, where I had to travel outside of the South and go to other places and meet other people, and realize that this whole stigma around men not expressing themselves, their emotions and so forth, shouldn't be a priority. Ooh, I gotta get this out. And so forth. I needed more water. That I had to slowly grow into. Come on, let's get this out. Ooh, come on, throat chakra. So, and I realized that, like, through my experiences in traveling, I started to meet more people of different nationalities in California. When I was modeling, I started meeting people all the parts across the world and so forth. That right there broadened my horizon, my perspective, my life, my experience personally, from your traditional religion, from your traditional black and white of thinking, that term being in the South, or even just experience. So when it says the constraint on that financially, we cannot overlook the fact of why certain people have progressed, and why that has been, and now that it's backfiring, now that a lot of people are starting to come into their awareness on why there's certain family members or certain things have progressed, and come to the truth of, like, oh shit, my family was a part of this. Even people that are darker, their family was a part of this. Certain nationalities, when it comes to people being held in captivity in all parts of the world by darker and lighter shade people who are part of those same things. Marriage, it also states right here, the traditional aspect of marriage, because a lot of us, as we prioritize our well-being and get more into our spiritual practice, the origins of what a lot of our ancestors did prior to a lot of what the baby boomers and boomers did, is that we're connecting more to ourselves and ancestral roots. And what that does is that we're throwing out that whole tradition around marriage because we're seeing how a lot of that is centered around control, manipulation. We're seeing how people were never genuine. We're seeing how a lot of people stayed in relationships due to never really loving and prioritizing themselves and their well-being. A lot of these mothers, a lot of these baby boomers, a lot of these women who stayed in stuff when their fathers went off to war and so forth. You know, a lot of things I can go into detail about, but they really never prioritized their well-being. So you had a lot of mothers left with a lot of repressing of emotions and memories, whether they did not see their partner when they went off to so-called war, or they did not return, or, you know, they met with an unexpected death over a war, over something that, again, a lot of us are realizing that was never for us to fucking fight in the beginning. But again, it had to happen leading up to now. What else? And so, yeah, home ownership is another big thing, because it's like, it's so unrealistic now where they're asking, like right now, presently, they're asking like 3 times as much as rent, you know, or for you to have something. And it's like, well, what is it? Is the country in debt? Or they're printing more money? Is this capitalism? Is this fucking with our emotions? What's really going on? And how the fuck is, you know, when the baby boomers got a home, it was 20, 30,000, you know, however it was, and all of a sudden it's 300,000. How much really is the dollar? You know, a lot of these things. And so when you talk about financial constraints, where is the money? Who has the money? And then it makes no sense for how there is supposed to be a so-called billionaire people like that, when a lot of it, I realize, my perspective is, when I do see a lot of people who get caught up in that network or that net worth aspect, again, this shit is spiritual as much as it is physical. They'll give you the narrative of how much people are worth to psychologically fuck with you. Because a lot of people that come from poverty, or what they deem as poverty, they won't see how valuable they are spiritually and think that they are less valuable than the one who has, or these fucking celebrities or people who so-called have these things and they're seen more valuable, when in reality it's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's all illusions, because the spiritual currency, or, you know, a lot of things that are more valuable. This is why a lot of us are getting entrepreneurship, because we're realizing the shit that was trying to be given to us and so forth was not panning out, was not working for us. Because y'all sitting here telling me this and this and this, when I'm adding, you try to make me what does that saying go? Try to make $1 out of 15 cents. That's what I feel like a lot of elders are giving us. When I see a lot of these people on these fucking platforms and shit, I'm like, bro, stop it. Stop it. And it's no difference in the spiritual community. Same people getting exposed, and the energy gonna keep exposing the people who are inauthentic, the people who are faking, who just trying to stay so close to the US dollar and don't realize a part of this transfer is going away from the paper to the digital. And also, that digital is a representation of a spiritual currency that's being transferred. All this shit is spiritually happening. Once we, as millenniums, and we're literally preparing the generation after us to prioritize their well-being and saying fuck the old world and all the other stuff they're trying to teach us. We're prioritizing our well-being. And either you either gonna respect that, honor that, or not at all, because the more we keep pointing to ourselves and taking back our power from the old world or the old narrative, and these elders keep trying to tell us this is the way you do it, and we sit here looking at y'all like fools because y'all way is not working anymore. It worked for y'all, don't mean it's supposed to work for us. So this shit is beautiful. I'm honored to express this shit. So when I looked at this, someone told me look this up and talk about this. I'm like, bro, some of us are the first generation to do a lot of this shit. Like, we are first generations to do a lot of this shit. Like, seriously, we are the first generation to do a lot of this shit right now. And, yeah. Like, man, I'm not finna let these folks trick me out of my position. I saw a part of those elders, and I see a lot of them crashing out and almost going through psychosis, going through a lot of shit because they're sitting here, like, literally the psychosis of believing, of telling themselves so much of so many lies, and even developing, if you research this, it's almost like the dementia aspect, because they're disassociating from the actual reality, the present moment, to where they're still believing, and they hold on unhealthily emotionally through what, and that's why they're panicking, but they will never show y'all. And that's what I think it talks about, that where was it at? The silent generation and the baby boomers. Who the fuck is the silent generation? I wonder, is that the ones? But anywho, but that's the thing, like, a lot of what we are prioritizing here does not reflect what the baby boomers and the boomers went through. We are a part of gathering up things and also letting that shit go right now, like disposing of it, putting it aside. We're not holding on to that shit. I'm not, because as I prioritize and focus on my well-being, it shows me, like, where exactly am I going, and then to realize, like, where I'm going is also where the generation after me is. So when I look at, I have to be very mindful of a lot of these elders who have old ways of, like, a lot of their repressed memories through the wars, through a lot of these mothers who did not have the support, a lot of their unresolved emotions and traumas. We were the result of that traumatically in the wombs, and now that we're here, we're resolving that shit. And they don't. And then when we try to hold them accountable, one of the highest rates right now is no contact with a lot of baby boomers, or the ones that gave birth to us, because that's how much we are prioritizing our well-being. And then a lot of those elders are transitioning out of this world in that same energy. And I keep telling people, this is where the grace comes, because a lot of their structures, and a lot of those structures were created and built upon just that. It wasn't built upon well-being. It wasn't built upon self-love. It wasn't built upon all of those focus, on certain things. That shit wasn't built upon entrepreneurs. At a time, I can say it was, but at the same time, you had stuff that came in to destroy the Black Wall Street and all this other stuff and so forth. I cannot say I know to the depths of much about all of that. I just know what's happening right now, and I know what I'm a part of. And I feel like the more we get a clear picture of this, what's happening right here, we'll see why this is one of the greatest transfer right now in the next 20 years. Because we're learning to accept this is who we are right here. And it's not, I'm not going to say don't be scared, but it's really nothing to be afraid of, especially when it says the home ownership, because a lot of the healing that's happening, a lot of us having to move or return to our hometowns or to be around a lot of those elders, has a lot to do with gathering the information, the unresolved things, even the conflict, the passive aggressiveness that families and certain people and certain things, the not so pretty things, the unresolved emotions, to be able to make these fucking decisions to focus on our well-being, y'all. To focus on what we need to do. To focus on if we want to get an RV and travel, move to another country, do something they never did. Because a lot of those people, they went through stuff and they stayed in the very same places. A lot of these baby boomers and boomers, they've lived. They probably, the traditional thing where it says right here, they've done things traditionally. Their thing was get a home. You gotta get a home. You gotta do this. You gotta go work and do all these things. Anyone that knows, that's their favorite go-to thing. You gotta do that. You gotta do that, or else you're a failure. And a lot of us has heard that. You're a failure. You even be disowned when you don't try to prioritize what they do. And that's not it. I'm gonna do a part 2 to this. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Be you for you. And being authentic and focusing on your well-being will also trickle down to the generations after us. That's what's so beautiful about this. Peace and blessings. Shalom. Where I'll stop this at.